Okay, hello. Yes, I know I said I wasn't planning on doing any more videos, but seeing some of the questions that I got back with regards to the quizzes from section B12, I thought I would take a little bit more time and go over subnetting one more time. And don't worry if you haven't completely gotten the hang of this. It is a bit of a tricky type of problem to worry about. Okay, so unfortunately, it's not any type of thing where you can just look for one magic thing and it tells you exactly what to do. Okay, so unfortunately, it really requires that you understand what is being asked of you each time so that you can actually solve the problem correctly. Okay, so I thought what I would do is I would take one question from the quiz and I want to go over very carefully just the context of what's being asked here. So yes, eventually I will answer this question, and no, it normally would not take you um, something about a half an hour to solve this. However, it's probably going to take me about a half an hour to explain what is really going on here. Okay, so really, please pay attention. Your end goal of this video is not simply to figure out is it A, B, C, D, or E. It's actually to figure out why it happens to be this value. Okay, so there's a question that said, what's the correct statement when creating 8 subnets of the network ID 192.24.16.128/25? Okay, and there's a bunch of options in here. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to go through here and deal with these things directly. I want to talk about what exactly does this mean given the network ID 192.24.16.128/25. Because if you don't know really what that means, there's no way that you can actually answer this question very well without just simply guessing. Okay, so first of all, what does it really mean? So really, the question is, let's make it considerably more broad to begin with, and then we'll come back and we'll actually answer the questions. So really, a question is like this. You are a company, okay, and you've been added to the internet, and you have been assigned the address 192.24.16.128/25. In fact, really, it should be called the address space. Okay, so what this means is that you want to get onto the internet, so you contact an internet service provider and they say, okay, fine, these are your addresses, and basically do whatever you want with these addresses. Okay, so that's really what the internet service provider is going to do. Is they're going to say, okay, look, here's your IP address. It's a /25 space. Do whatever you want with these things. Okay, so what does it mean? Do whatever you want with these things. Okay, well, there's a whole lot of options that you can do. I mean, obviously, you're going to put some computers onto your network so that people can reach them from the internet. But there's a few different ways how they can be organized. So I'm going to go over a few different ways. I won't go through over all of them because there's a bit too many for 30 minutes, but we'll at least get started on this, and you should be able to figure out how to do this moving forward. Okay, so first of all, let's get something figured out because you know very well that we need to know the subnet mask. Okay, because everything that we're going to set up has to do with the subnet mask. So I'm going to begin with this. Now, of course, you remember that this is a /25. So what that means is that we're talking about a subnet mask that has 25 ones in that, or sorry, 25 1 bits starting from the left side. So let's count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's not enough. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's 24 and there's 25. Okay, and the rest, of course, are zeros. Okay, so that's our very first thing, is a subnet mask, and we'd better have this in decimal format as well. Okay, so it's easy to recognize the all 1 bits. Those are simply the 255, and this number right here, this is 128. Okay, all right, so that's sort of our first thing, because any computers that we configure on here is going to have a 255, 255, 255.128 subnet mask. Okay, now what I want to do is let's go back and take a look at our addresses. So again, so let's look at our network in binary form. Okay, so what I'm talking about is the 192. Here, I'll even write it here just so you know for sure. Okay, 192.24.16.128. Okay, so let's take a look at this in binary form. This happens to be 110000000000100010001000 and finally 10000000. Okay, all right, so trust me, that one is actually in the binary form. Okay, I used a calculator. I already had the number written down, so as long as I haven't messed up, I think I should be all right. But here's what I want to do. So I'm going to look at this number in binary form, and we will highlight the first 25 bits in yellow. Okay, all right, so what this is going to be from here to here, and let me go up and let me highlight these as being yellow. Okay, so now the results of this. Okay, so a couple of things about this. The yellow part cannot be changed. Okay, that is our network. Okay, that's our network. So us as a company, we have to start our IP address with exactly this binary bit pattern. Okay, the unhighlighted part can be whatever we want. Okay, because this is our stuff. Okay, so well, of course, there's some limitations. So we have a bunch of possibilities. Okay, in fact, there's a whole pile of them. So what we could do, we could just take a simple approach. So okay, let's call this option 1. Okay, simple approach. Now, we've been through this a bunch of other times. We know that we've got a bunch of addresses. Okay, well, let's start writing out some of them. I won't put all of them, but we'll put at least maybe this many. Okay, would that be enough? Maybe one more will be fine. Okay, first of all, this address right here. So I'm not going to bother putting this into decimal form. Okay, but let's start putting some, well, yeah, I will put this into decimal form, but the first thing about this. Okay, this one right here. Do you remember the lower part, these lower 7 bits, this is known as the host bits. Okay, so here, let's actually put this up. 7 bits are the host bits. Okay, make that as a note. This one cannot be used because it is our network ID. Okay, so that one is completely out. So some of the other options, we could have a 1 here, we could have a 1 0, we could have a 1 1, you could have a 1 0 0, etc., etc., etc. Okay, continue on. We've got a bunch of other things where eventually we will end up with, say, a number that looks like this. Okay, and let's copy and paste a couple more of these. Right, so this is another possibility, and this is a possibility, and guess what, this one right here, notice that the host bits are all 1. I hope you remember that this is a broadcast address, and therefore you cannot use this one. Okay, now, let's not say cannot use because there's a network ID. Let's just leave it as network ID, and we'll call this to broadcast. Okay, let's put this into decimal format. 192.24.16, and this happens to be not the number 0 because of this extra bit. This is 128. Well, look at that. That's exactly our network number. All right, 192.24.16.120. Well, that's the next number, 9. So if you take this and convert this, here we go. If you convert this number right here into decimal, you'll get 129. This happens to be, well, I had you guys work through this, first host ID. Okay, and this is 192.24.16.130. This would be the second one. So that's just sort of a normal everyday IP address. And of course, we can continue on all the way up to, all right, well, this one right here, this one should be fairly easy to do. This is 192.24.16.255. Okay, because it's all the 1 bits, and the number right before it'll be 24.16.254, and the number just before this 192.24.16.253, and so on, and it goes all the way back. Okay, so in fact we don't even really need these two right here, but you could certainly work those out. Okay, so here I'll simplify this one. Okay, so here we go. So your addresses that you could use include from the dot 129 all the way up to the 254, but you can't use 255. Okay, that's the end of it. Now, notice that this has absolutely nothing to do with this create 8 subnets. Okay, this is simply our own address space right now, so I'm just suggesting what you can do with it. So, simple approach. Okay, one network, and I will explain that in a second. Okay, now as a demo, take a look over here. So I've opened up Packet Tracer and I've set up a small demonstration. You don't need to do this, but what I've done is I've picked up these addresses 192.24.16.140, and of course, well, that happens to be inside my network, and so is 141. And if you take a look at my desktop and I show you the IP config, okay, you can see I've used the subnet mask exactly like this, and I've decided to use the default gateway is 192.168.16.129. Why did I pick the 129? Well, I picked the 129 because it was the first host ID. Again, it could have been any number, that just happens to be what I picked. Okay, and then of course everything goes off to the rest of the internet. So you can set this up if you want and try pinging things. It's not a requirement for this. Okay, so this happens to be one way that me, as the company who owns this space, could divide the network. Okay, so that happens to be if you had one large network. Now, if you remember when we were going through the initial stuff on routing, okay, 2 networks, so option 2, 2 networks. Okay, if you remember when we first did the initial stuff on routing, I said, well, what happens if you happen to have a couple of departments? So suppose you had IT and accounting, and you wanted to keep the networks separated. Okay, how do you do this? Okay, so one option, well, you can always go back and you can ask the internet service provider for another block of addresses, but guess what? These are quite expensive. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use a small trick to take our network, and we're going to break everything apart. So remember that. Okay, so first of all, if we used all the addresses for a single network, how many computers could we have? Okay, well, pretty easy. You look back here. So we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of, well, it's 255 minus 128, so it's we're talking like 126 numbers. Okay, so it's 126 of them. So now the question is could we have 2 networks with, well, so what's 126 divided by 2? 63 computers on each. Okay, and of course the answer is yes, we could. And what we do is, yes, we use subnetting to accomplish this. So what we're going to do in order to subnet, we're going to take this number that's right up here. So this is my address. Remember, everything in yellow, I can't make any changes, but all of the clear stuff is completely free to what we can do. And here's what we're going to do. See this stuff right here? I'm going to highlight this, but I'm going to highlight it as red. So the yellow part, okay, so again, consider our network address. Sorry, that's another question for a little bit later. Okay, so here's our network address. The yellow part is fixed. We can't change it. The non-yellow is free for our use, but we are going to use the red part as our subnet number. Okay, so how many different subnets can I have? So what subnets are there? Okay, well, there's 2 of them. It can either be 0, and what we're going to do is we're going to call this the IT subnet, and we also have the value 1, which I'm going to call the accounting subnet. Okay, so now we have 2 subnets. So now what I can do with this is, well, let's grab this number and let's copy it down so we can at least look at some values. So here we go. Let me put a bunch of numbers right here. Okay, I'm not sure how many I'm going to need yet. Okay, so first of all, this, of course, is 192.168. Well, in fact, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, first of all, what is this? This is the network ID. Okay, this is the network ID, but more specifically, it's the IT network ID. How do I know it's the IT network? Well, because the subnet number is 0. Okay, a little bit later, I'm going to have a bunch of things down here with the 1. Sorry, I'll put that highlight in a second. Okay, here we go. And highlight, 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 and highlight. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these up into 2 different parts. And of course, well, I can have a 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, and all the way up to, well, guess what I'm going to have? I'm going to have a bunch of stuff up here towards the end, and this number right here. Down here, sorry, I'll leave that one as 0. This will be the 1, this will be the 1, 0, this will be the 1, 1, and so on all the way up to this number and eventually finishing this one right here. Okay, so let's keep going. What is this? This, of course, well, take a look at this. You see, now what I've done is I've only got 6 bits for the host. Okay, but what this is, this means this turns into being the IT broadcast network, and this happens to be the first IT host, second IT host, and so on. This will happen to be the last IT host. Down here, this happens to be the accounting network ID. How do I know it's the accounting network ID? Well, take a look at the subnet number. It happens to be subnet number 1. This would be the first accounting host, second accounting host, and so on. This will be the last accounting host, and this will be the accounting broadcast. Okay, so how do I know it's an accounting address? Well, because I'm using a 1-bit right here in the red part. And how do I know it's a broadcast? Well, because the host number happens to be all 1s. Okay, so the only thing left to do is let's turn this into some actual numbers. So this is 192, no, what were the numbers? 24, 16 dot. Okay, well, unfortunately, we got a little bit of work here. Okay, that's 128. Remember this one. This would be the number 192, 24, 16, 129. This number right here would be 192, 24, 16, 130, and so on. And this one right here would be 192, 24, 16 dot. Okay, well, we'll have to dig out a calculator in a second. And same with this is 129.16 dot something. That will be the broadcast address. Okay, well, here, let's grab the calculator. All right, and let's do a little bit of work. Okay, so we'd be looking at something now. Remember, you got to look from the entire thing after the dot. Okay, so we've got a 1 here. We've got a 0 followed by a whole bunch of 1s. Okay, here we go. That happens to be the broadcast, so that's 191. Okay, 191, which means that this will be 190. Okay, here we go. So that happens to be the IT broadcast. Well, let's just continue on right here. 192, 24, 16 dot. Now, what is this number right here? Okay, well, let's haul out the calculator once again. So this happens to be 2 1s. So, sorry, not there. Right there. This happens to be 192. And of course that's convenient because that's exactly 1 after the previous number, which makes this one 24, 16, 193. The next will be 194, 195, and eventually we'll end up here at the broadcast address, which is 192, 624, 16, 255, and the number before 24, 16, 254. Okay, so these happen to be all of the accounting network computers. These happen to be all the IT. How can I tell that it's IT? Very simple. You look at the network number. The network number here is 0. The network number down here is 1. Now, again, just to remind you what it is, the yellow stuff we cannot change. That was given to us. However, we have 7 bits that we can do whatever we want with. Up here, I decided to use a single network. I used a single network and I put 128 or 126 computers on that network. Down here, we've got something a little bit different. We've decided to take our bits, and some of the bits happen to represent the network number, some of the bits represent the host. And of course, the trade-off here is because we've only got 6 bits for the host, now we're talking 62 different addresses on here, but of course we have 2 different networks. Okay, now again over here, let me open up this. Yes, we'll save this one. And you can see what I've done this time is I've got exactly just what I did. I've now used, of course, really what we've done is we're no longer a /25, now we're a /26. Yes, the internet service provider gave us a /25, but we've decided to cheat a little bit and call it a /26. And of course, because it's a /26, we do need to use a different network mask. Okay, so that is a little bit different. And you see what I've done is I've used the first host on each of my subnetworks. So here's the IT network, here's the accounting network. So I still have the same number of computers, I've just divided it into 2 smaller networks. Okay, so can we continue on? All right, well, yeah, actually we can continue on. So we're going to do one further. Okay, so I'm going to say option number 3, and we're going to say 4 networks. Okay, but of course, well, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be a little bit smaller. So here's what we're going to do. Well, let's start by doing exactly the same thing. Let's take our address. Okay, so take our address. Okay, which is this, but now this time, rather than using only 1 bit as the subnet, now what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 of these, okay, which means that I have the following options for our networks. So what could we do? Well, we could still call this IT, we could call this accounting, we could call this one sales, and we could call this one production. Okay, so now what I've done is I now have 4 different possibilities. Okay, now what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go through all of these values, but we'll do at least a few of them. So let me take this, sorry, again, that's for a little bit later. Okay, right here. Okay, here we go. And I'll paste this a bunch of times. I'm not sure what we've got. Okay, so we may remove a couple. So this one right here, this very first line, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these with the hosts in a few seconds. Okay, so we'll replace all of these with the hosts in a few seconds. So let's leave them 0 for right now. So this particular address happens to be on, here, let me get both of these, that's on the IT network. Let's leave this one as the IT network. Let's change this one to 01, highlighted. So what network is this one on? Let's see, we can put this here. Oh, this highlighting does not work so well for me. Okay, here we go. And we've got this as a possibility. Okay, that was easier. And we'll take this as a possibility, and we'll call this as 01. And again, I'll do a little bit of highlighting. Okay, sorry, that took more time than I wanted. Okay, here we go. So now, by taking a look at our subnet, notice that I've got 2 addresses here on the IT network. I've got 2 addresses for the accounting. I've got 2 addresses for sales, 2 addresses for production. So what different values can I have? Well, I can have whatever it is that I want. Okay, I could have 000, and what this would mean, this would be the IT network number. Okay, I could certainly have this. This would be IT first host. And if I wanted to, I could have 10 as the second host, and I could certainly have a bunch of 111. I could have all ones. Okay, and of course that would end up making things the broadcast address. Okay, so I won't do all of these, but we will do at least a couple. So, sorry, let me copy paste this one, and we'll turn this into 00001. That'll be the first, and this will be called the IT broadcast. Okay, so I'm not going to do all of these, but we'll sort of generalize a couple of these ones. Okay, so there's a couple of things. So let's identify each of these. So first of all, what address is this? Well, again, this is our network because of the yellow stuff. That's ours. It doesn't belong to any other company. It belongs to us. This happens to be accounting, and this happens to be the first host within the accounting. This one right here, this would be the accounting network because of the 01, and this one right here, this would be the second host. This one right here, this is sales because it's on the 10 subnet, and this would happen to be the first host. This would be sales, this would be the second host. Okay, this one right here, because it's 1.1, this is production. So this is our production network, first host, and this is also production. This is second. Okay, and well, since we're here, let's finish it off, and we'll say this one right here. 11111. So what this would be production broadcast. Okay, and of course the sales has a broadcast address, the accounting has a broadcast address, just like here. So the host bits would be all one. So now, what have I done? Okay, again, the yellow part is our /25. But what we're doing is we're kind of cheating, and we're using a /27 for our network number. Okay, and of course, yes, we can go back and we can turn all of these values into addresses. Okay, so 192.1.24.16.129. Okay, I won't do all of these ones. Let's pick the sales. The sales would happen to be 192.24.16.193. Okay, and you can go through and you can calculate all of these, and here we go. This is 192.24.16.255. So now, of course, notice that the broadcast address, or this thing that looks like a broadcast address, the 255, doesn't actually broadcast to everybody in the company. It only broadcasts to the production network. Okay, all right, so once again, back to here, and let me show you a quick little diagram. I've also done exactly the same thing here with 4 networks. Okay, so again, now we've got the IT, the accounting, the sales, and the production, and these happen to match those addresses I put, and I have used the first host address as the router point. Okay, so again, what we've ended up doing is we've simply taken our 192.24.16/25 network, and I've broken it up into 4 networks. Okay, so now, could we continue on and do other things? Sorry, that is not for right now. Okay, could we break this up other ways? So yes, here's the way how we could organize this. Okay, so we could organize our network in the following ways. Okay, all right, number 1, we could have one network with 128 hosts. Okay, now each of these you have to subtract 2. Okay, so use bool. So why do you have to take away the 2? Well, if you remember, you can't use the broadcast address, you can't use the network ID. So those ones always get taken out. The other thing you could do is you could take 2 networks with 64 hosts each. Okay, and again, you have to think about subtracting 2. So two of them are unusable, so 64 are usable. Okay, you could also have 4 networks with, well, guess what? You just keep on going. It's 32 hosts each. But of course, again, you're going to lose a couple. So let's say 30. 30 is the real number. Oh, could you also take it and divide it into 8 networks? Okay, yes, you could, with 16 hosts each. Okay, which means you end up with 14. Okay, so what have we done? Yes, we actually demonstrated the 1, we demonstrated the 2. Okay, that was when we didn't have a subnet and we simply used a /25, but if we used a /26, we managed to get 2 of these 64, and we used this one by basically stealing 2 bits. This one we ended up stealing 3 bits. No, sorry, we didn't actually do that one. We only did one with 2, but this would end up taking 3 bits. And could you just keep on going? Could you have 16 networks with 8 hosts each? And the answer is sure, but we'll only have to actually have 6 of them. Could we go to 32 networks with 4 hosts each? Yes, we could. Could you go with 64 networks with 2 hosts each? Sorry, 2 hosts each? Well, we could, but we'd end up with absolutely 0 hosts that could actually be used. So, you see, we can actually do anything with our network that we want to because it is our network. Remember, the 192.168.6, sorry, 192.192.124.16 dot 128. So as long as that first bit is set, we can do whatever we want with the stuff afterwards. That is entirely up to us. So in this case, we ended up breaking our network into, in this particular case, 4 networks. Okay, so finally, back to the initial question. Okay, what was the actual thing? Okay, here's our question in the first place. Okay, so it says, what is the correct statement when creating 8 subnets given the network ID this? Okay, so let's go back and actually solve this. Well, let's do the same type of thing that we just did a whole pile of times. Okay, let's take our network ID and write it down, and let's start marking down some of our subnets. Okay, now if we wanted 8 networks, how many bits do we require? Well, we would end up having to use 3 of the bits in order to do this. Okay, so that means, okay, so here's the 3 bits. Now, if we're looking for the highest number subnet, well, guess what? It's not going to be 000. Instead, it's going to be 1, 1, and let's see, this way. Okay, I think that's the quickest way. So, what number does this happen to be? Well, let's turn it into decimal. So 192.24.16, and this number right here. Okay, this is the 4-bit set. So here we go, it happens to be 240. Okay, so there's actually the answer. It happened to be this one right here. Okay, and that happens to be the highest. Now, I know what you're thinking is, well, that was easy. All I had to do is just look for the biggest number. Okay, no, please don't fall into that trap. I've given you something down here, and notice that I haven't changed the number very much. Okay, it says, given the network ID 192.24.16 0/25, which is the following is the correct statement. Okay, so notice it's not that much different, but don't immediately jump for the biggest number. Okay, so first of all, what is it that I need? Okay. What is the difference, by the way? The difference is now this is a .0 at the end. So here, let me put a 0 here and erase this. Okay, so this yellow part is now my network, and I'm interested in subdividing it. So what do? Well, we take we want a total of 8 of these things. So what I'm going to do is I know I need 3 bits in order to have 8. Okay, let's highlight it. Okay, and how do you make the highest number? Well, the highest number subnet would have a 1 here, a 1 here, and a 1 here. Okay, sorry. 1 here and here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here we go. And of course, the problem with this one is this is no longer the biggest number because, well, notice that I've now got a 0, which is part of the yellow. So that first bit happens to be 0, so the result is 112. So it's 192.24.16, 112. So you can see it isn't just that you jump at the biggest number that you see. Okay, you actually do need to work out this type of thing. So first of all, the most important thing is make sure that you understand what it is being asked for, because a lot of people got confused on the quiz where they looked at this /25 and thought we were asking for a subnet mask, and of course none of these things work, and then you say, well, that it doesn't work because you can't do this because I don't see many answers. No, make sure that you really understand what the question is that's being asked. Okay, so remember, when you're given something and that means this is going to be the yellow part, and if you subnet it, you need to figure out how many bits. Now, somebody did ask a question, well, what if I wanted, say, 9 subnets? How many bits do I use? Okay, here, in fact, I won't even take this one. Let me copy and paste this question down again. When creating 9 subnets, given this network, are any of these valid, or any of these things actually valid? Okay, well, again, very, very quickly, let's just take this, sorry, that's the wrong place. Let me just take this number right here, okay, and let me replace this with zeros for a second. Okay, here we go. Now, the thing is that if you wanted to create 9 subnets, well, start highlighting things. How many subnets can you have right now? I hope you've said the answer is 2. Okay, what if I make this the subnet number? Well, now I can have 4. Okay, what if I make this the subnet number? Well, now I can have 8. Okay, well, what if I do this? Well, this would give me 16 possible subnets. Well, I only want 9. Well, sorry, unfortunately, you can't actually do that. You actually have to use a power of 2. Now, there are all kinds of strange little tricks that you can do within your company to have a small subnet where 9 happens, or subnet numbers 1 through 8 have a certain number of computers and 9 has a different one. It's not something we're going to do in this course. Okay, so anything we're going to ask you to do will always be a power of 2, so you don't have to worry about getting these funny questions. Or if I say you want to create 9 subnets, your answer would be, well, you'd have no choice but to use 4 bits. Okay, and that happens to be it. So hopefully this ends up helping out. I believe that if you understand what's going on here, I think that most of the other quiz questions that you bumped into on quiz 12 should make a little bit more sense. Okay, all right, so that's it for this video.